The T2.5 World Tour started on Sunday, race number 1. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I was up in London at the Tottenham Stadium watching the NFL, which was an awesome day out. But you'd think that the person who was putting the tour schedule together would have put it together in such a way that he could make at least the first race. But that's not how my brain works. Knowing that I wasn't going to make the race though, a couple of the T2.5 regulars said to me, "Do you want me to record the race?" I definitely jumped at the chance so I can put a video together of the race. So let's see how it went. Here we are then at the start. We've got some footage from some awesome people. Starting off with Julia in the C-Cat. We've also got Pavel, who is in the C-Cat as well. 2 people recording the C-Cat race. John in the A's with the other 3 A-Cat riders there. He's recording this race as well. Kenneth is recording the D-Cat race with lots of D-category riders in this one. And then we have Colin in the B-Cat with the other B-Cats. Got bigger groups, I think, in the C's and the D's. I'll be honest, I've lined these up in time order and I haven't actually watched this race yet. So I'm recording this as I'm watching what happened. But this is the C-Cat. Lots and lots of people in the C-Cat. 19 riders. Some names I recognise. Lots of names I recognise and lots of newcomers as well. So welcome to the T2.5 group. We've got C. Cole, P. Munro, P. McMillan. And then moving really quickly. George is in there. I'm sure I saw Craig in there as well. Everyone's sticking together at the start here, I see as well, which is really, really good. Trying to work together. This is different to our normal Thursday night races. We have I guess normally a chase race on a Thursday night where the D's go first, the C's go about 2 minutes afterwards usually, the B's just after that, and then the A's, and we all see each other on the course and we all chase each other down. This is very different. These are very categorized races and you can't see people in the other categories as well. We've just jumped over to the 4 riders. I'll be interested to see whether the A-Cat riders stick together and ride as a group throughout this, because obviously it's the smallest group that we have. A-Cat's a difficult category to fill up, but it'd be interesting to see how they race it. C-Cat obviously one of the bigger categories. And the D-Cat is the largest category. People I can see in there: JJ, A. Scott, J. Dreyer, A. Evans, L. Warrior, Rebel Spawn, Kenneth, J. Mallet, B. Jenkinson, I. Davies, D. C. Marks, D. Howarth, K. Quinn, and probably a lot of other riders in there as well that I can't quite see at the moment. Just coming into the volcano here, still with Julia. And the C group is pretty much together. The one thing, obviously, watching a recording back is I can't move around amongst the list to kind of see where people are. It looks like the front group is all together. There's no one off the front from this group. There does appear to be a few people who have fallen off the back slightly. I can't tell who those people are. It's great to see Mr. Zizou on his bike as well. But I'm really interested in this race to see how the different categories sort of come together, and there's going to, I guess, be a split point at some point where the groups split up slightly, and I'm guessing it's the hill as you go up towards the sort of the reverse KOM before turning off before you do the actual climb. But there's a very steep hill there, which I think will have quite a big impact on all of the categories and might be the decider here within this race, because it's a 20, what are we've got 16.5 kilometers to go, so it's a relatively short race, but it'd be interesting to see how those groups come together at the bottom and then split out over the course of it. Just over 6.5 minutes into the race then, still with the C's at the moment, still working in that pack. No one's kind of gone off the front, working well together. Let's jump forward, having a look at the A-Cat. Again, all 4 of them riding together. I've got FP, John, Eric, great to have you back riding with us, and Synth Rider. Coming up that little switchback sort of gravelly section as you come out of the volcano and head back towards the main Watopia area. These are obviously the stronger riders. FP's gone for it already. That was 8.5 watts per kilo I saw there. Is he trying to make an early break, trying to get a bit of a gap before the race really gets going? And what was that? I think it was a feather he put down there as well. So really trying to make it hurt for the rest early on and try and make a gap for himself as we go back to Pavel and the C-Cat group, just about to start making the way up that similar the hill that the A's are pretty much most of the way up now, I would say. D-Cat a little further behind, just about to come into the gravel area, still all together in a big group. I can't see anyone, just looking at the map in the top right hand corner, I can't see anybody who's dropped out the back. Massive group of Ds here. Hopefully they can work together and keep that the big draft benefit going, people staying in that group for as long as possible before getting potentially dropped out of the back. So we're back now looking at FP and John. So there was a 2-second gap I saw there for a minute. It always amazes me watching the ACAT group. All their watts per kilo, well over 5, into the 6s and even higher. But what's happened here is it's split. That group was together at the bottom. By the time we got to the top here, there's a 7-second gap between FP and John, and Synth Rider and Eric. I don't know whether they get back within the group or they group back up again, but John's put in a big effort here to make sure he's bridged that gap over to FP after his little blast up the hill. And back in this group of Cs, you can see there's a few more, I think, that have been spat out the back on that hill. Doesn't feel like it's quite as together as it was before, but certainly the people on the front are in a group together, and then a few stragglers off the back. I wonder if any of those guys can catch on. It's an 8-second gap back to M. Cugs. I apologise if I'm butchering that. But the main group, I think, is sticking together. There must be about 10 people within this group doing really well to stick with it. Maybe this little incline here will split the group a little bit more before sort of heading down and starting what I guess is the main climb on this course. Having a look at the Ds who's just come out of the gravel part of the climb. You can see it's starting to string out a little bit now. A Scott, A Hoogeveen and J Hayes, with JJ slightly off the front. Then a group of riders, and then another couple of seconds back to A Evans, N Brandon and L Warrior. It'll be interesting to see how much this splits this group up, and whether, because there's so many riders, 27 in the category, whether they form little pockets of groups of riders on their own, working together to try and bridge gaps and stuff. But obviously stronger riders and potentially lighter riders taking advantage of this hill and pushing off out the front. Front of the C group still sticking together. They've got about a 10-second lead over M Reed, and then 28 back to J Lee, apologies, as we're just coming over the sort of rickety bridge area before turning off to do the climb. P Zizou and Julia in that front group still riding hard and riding really well to keep together in that group. As we jump forward to have a look at the Bs, they are all together. The whole of the B group are together. We've got T Zwift, A Kerr, C Jupp, let's move it around. D McAnally, Seymour, M Way, N Slevin, B Bishop, N Corbin, and apologies I missed the other person at the back there. As we jump forward quickly, already on this climb then are the ACAT and FP. Up at 8 watts per kilo I saw there. John doing his best to stay as well. So these two sticking together up this hill. I've got a 10-second lead. There's a gap now opened up between Synth and Eric. That's an 11-second lead they've got over Synth, and then another 10 back to Eric. As dropping back to the Bs very quickly, just coming over that bridge, heading towards that kind of climb themselves as well. And here they are on that climb. So you can see the group is starting to split already. Some bigger numbers being put out, a couple of orange numbers on there, and the group, unfortunately I can't see who's gone off right at the front, but I can see C Jupp, B Bishop, A Kerr, N Corbin, D McAnally starting to kind of pull away a little bit now, and a few others being left slightly further behind. Here is the C group. They're just hitting the bottom of the climb as well. And Pavel doing really well to stick on the front of that group. Julia hanging in at the back as well. Group still together. M Reed back 20 seconds behind now with J Lee, J Bushell. So this group, you can see that it is starting to split on the screen. I did wonder whether this hill would be the point that split most of the groups up, and it's kind of happening. But everyone putting in awesome effort just to kind of remain alongside others. It is a short, sharp climb this. It was up at 10% a second ago. So yeah, great to see how people are pushing. The DCAT have hit the bottom of the climb, and look how that group has come back together. Very spread out on the hill on the way up. We just saw a couple of minutes ago, but obviously on the little run back down to the sort of sea level, I guess, managed to pull themselves back together. There are a couple off the front. I can just see there a couple of seconds ahead, but I think the majority of the group are together. Unfortunately, it's moving around too quickly to see who it is off the front. But this will probably, you can see already, there's a couple of people disappearing off up into the distance. As we saw with the other categories, this hill is going to split the group. And there's a gap now, a massive gap, 13-second gap that's opened up in the A's. John over FP. Moving back into the B's, you can see that the group slightly further ahead now. C. Jutt and B. Bishop have got a 7-second lead over M. Way, D. McAnally and A. Kerr. So they're riding together, and N. Corbin. They're riding together. And then back in the C's, it is, you see the slow procession of riders up the hill. I wonder whether any of these come back together as we get to the top. This is definitely the sort of area that would lose me completely. With my weight, just putting out the effort required for this length of time, I'd be spat right out the back. But yeah, so I know the pain that some of the guys are going through here. It's starting to string out a little bit. Jay Simpson at the front. We've dropped over already to the A-Cat. There's an 18-second lead. John is absolutely smashing it. He's smashed it up that hill, pushed as hard as he can. And then back in the B's, we can see that gap. And then the C's. Just about coming to the top of the hill now. Want to be interesting to see how it shakes out towards the end as they're kind of going over the flat bits. Can some of the riders that have dropped a little bit catch up more with the guys at the front? So 12.5 kilometres gone here at the moment, just about to sort of head left and back down towards the main group. This is the A-Cat, and I think this is the last A-Cat footage that we have. But you can see how that gap was just created by John. And Finn's dropped back 32 seconds behind, but Synth has caught him. So those two riding together, and Eric back 1 minute and 49 behind. Just about to head down back into the main Watopia area. Having a look back at the C-Cat group now. So Julia kind of on her own a little bit. 17 seconds behind is D. Morris. But M. Gregory, 3 seconds ahead. George, 7 seconds ahead. And D. Munro. There's Pavel Zizou as well in that little group together with D. Munro. P. McMillan and C. Cole, I think possibly out the front. But you can just see how that hill has just completely split the group apart. And exactly the same thing has happened to the D group. I can't see the front of the race, but D Gilmore is 38 seconds in front of Kenneth. G Fatbike just behind with L Warrior and A Hugavine. Then S Cook 14 seconds ahead. And then we've got a little group here of C Cross, J Dreyer, K Scramstad, and then 4 seconds back to A Evans. M Brandon, I Davies together. And then another group a little bit further back. So that's, as expected, that climb has split this group. Now I wonder whether any Kenneth message, that hill killed me. Brilliant. I wonder if any of these can come back together and this little, well, it's not particularly flat, it's a bit of a uppy downy bit. That's a technical term, uppy downy, but we'll see if any of these groups can come back together. And we've got that little drop back down to the main island now as well coming up. Riding down the hill then with the B's, you can see Ben and Chris have got themselves about a 30-second lead out the front. And then a little group of 4 riders, M. Way, N. Corbin, D. McAnally and A. Kerr, as Colin just goes into super tuck position to get down the hill as fast as possible. Just dropping back to the C's, Julia has M. Gregory just behind her, only a couple of metres back. George is 20 seconds in front, and I'm assuming J. Simpson and C. Cole are at the front here with P. Macmillan only 2 seconds behind. There, Watts per kilo have dropped off, so they must be going down that main hill, hitting the super tuck themselves. And Julia just putting out a little bit of extra power to try and stay in that draft with M. Gregory. So coming up the hill, they're just about to hit that downhill, the main fast downhill as well. Just getting to the bottom of the hill with D. Munro is Pavel, doing really well. He's 5th at the moment with he's kind of 20 seconds behind 3rd place. And then back into Julia's group where trying to come down the hill and super tuck as M. Gregory hits super tuck at the same time. Seeing if those two can stay together. Maybe they can work together to bridge the gap to George in front towards the bottom of this hill. Julia is flying down this hill. D-Cat just about to come to the end of the ridge and turn left and head back down to the main island. Nice little group formed here. C. Cross, I. Davies, Kenneth, J. Dreyer, A. Evans, N. Brandon. with a couple of people just behind and a little group in front of them, about 30 or towards 40 seconds ahead. I don't think they'll be catchable at this point. I think only got 6.4 kilometres to go. As we see, is that S. Cook's just gone off front? No, I. Davies gone off the front. Apologies. Putting a bit of effort in, get some speed up to go down the hill. Maybe that will create a bit of a gap, a bit of rolling speed downhill. That could have been a really good tactic. Coming into the business end of the race then, 16.7 kilometres gone, 2.5 kilometres left to go. Just coming up to nearly the half an hour mark. Julia and M. Gregory working together. Seymour about to climb out of the underwater tunnels. He's kind of got nobody around him really, but jumping forward to look at Ben and Chris out the front. They've got themselves a 31-second lead. It's going to be a chase down to the line from these two. Looking forward to seeing that. And M-Way is behind, 30 seconds back with D. McAnally, N. Corbin and A. Kerr still is that group of 4. So it'll be interesting to see and watch those guys sprint to the line as well. Just dropping back to have a look at Julia, sticking with M. Gregory. 20 seconds behind George, not quite going to catch him. But here we go then, watching Ben and Chris fight it out to the line. I wonder who's going to win this one. Who's going to go first? I don't even know who's going to go first here. Chris, he puts a little bit down, tricks Ben into a little bit of a higher level. Is that 18.1? Ben goes first. Chris putting out the power behind. This is going to be close. That gap is going to have to close. It is closing. Chris putting out the power just on the line. Oh, Ben just beats Chris to the line. Incredible racing, guys. That is amazing. What a photo finish. Absolutely brilliant. That little trick I think Chris tried to play with a spike of power, as we see M-Way and then Corbin cross the line. That sort of group behind split out a little bit. D. McAnally, Lex, and then A. Kerr. Yeah, just watching Chris, I think, did he try and trick a little bit to say he was going early? Caused Ben to go, but then Chris backed off, and that might have cost him. I don't know. But yeah, just seeing Colin come towards the line. Julia coming out of the tunnel with M. Gregory. I think these two are going to have a good race to the finish line as well. Watching Colin over the line then, going to finish in 7th. A nice little gap, I think, back to T. Zwift just behind him. So we'll jump to watch this race between Pavel and D. Munro. Nothing between them. George is 14 seconds behind, so probably too far back to make too much of a go at it. And then Julia is riding with M. Gregory just behind that. Coming out of the tunnel then, D-Cat. We've got A. Scott, JJ together, J. Hughes, D. Gilmore, with G. Fatbike about 50 seconds behind. So it's between those front 4. And here we go. Pavel winding it up. You can see the pain on the face. That is awesome. This is going to be a tight one. D. Munro winding it up too. 6.4, 6.3 watts per kilo. Pavel 6.5. Who is going to get there first? This could be close. If D. Munro puts any power out behind, is that gap closing? Is it going to stay the same? I think Pavel's just got the legs. You can see the effort on his face. That is awesome. Great racing, Pavel. And then back into Julia's group. George will be the next one over the line. He's 28 seconds ahead. So there's going to be a chase down to the line here between Julia, D. Morris, M. Gregory, and I can't read that until it scrolls across. That's slow. Scroll. D. Shannon. That's it. There's going to be a chase to the line between these guys. And I come right down to it. 32.25 gone. Who is going to be the first to go? And Julia goes first. 10.5 watts per kilo, 12 watts per kilo. We know the sprint that Julia's got on her. Back up at 12 watts again. Pushing out early. Anyone else, can they match it? Can they challenge? It doesn't look like it. That's awesome racing. Well done, Julia. M. Gregory just behind. We'll have to see what the results afterwards, how close that was. Incredible racing. Jump back to look at the D's come over the line. J. Hayes, JJ, A. Scott and D. Gilmore all in this group. D. Gilmore might be slightly farther off the back. JJ putting out over 7 watts a kilo. Is that going to be enough to chase A. Scott to the line? It's going to be close. Who is going to get there first? I think JJ got the rolling speed he has. JJ over the line first, then A. Scott and J. Hayes with D. Gilmore a couple of seconds behind. Now we get to see 3 more D-Cats race to the line. L Warrior, G Fatbike and A Hugavine. Who is going to go first out of these 3? We
We had the early tactic by Julia as Ahukavine goes. 6.3 watts per kilo, I see. Pushing out ahead of the others. G Fatbike tries to respond. El Warrior 5.8, 5.4. Are they going to catch Ahukavine? He may have gone just early enough. It looks like he may have done. Who's going to win it between G Fatbike and El Warrior? I'm not too sure. Well, we'll be able to tell. We might have to look at the final results. Great racing, everyone. Going to see A. Evans and I. Davies. Who is going to win this one? I think A. Evans is going to win it. I. Davies pushing out massive numbers, and Case Gramstad just behind. Awesome racing to the end, and there's C. Cross over the line too.
So although I had an awesome day out on Sunday, I'm gutted to have missed the race. It would have been great to do it with everybody. Such big group numbers as well, which is awesome. I probably would have been spat out the back during that little increased, that hill, the 10%er. But let's have a look at the results. I'm not going to read through everybody because obviously there's lots of people, especially in this DCAT. But we saw JJ sprint to the finish with Andrew Scott and James Hayes and David Gilmore. That was awesome. Couple of a close race between Ahukavine, Latix and Glenn. Andrew Evans and Ian Davies really close with Kenneth and Steve Cook as well. So over the course of a third half an hour race, coming down to a sprint finish at the end was awesome. It was great, despite not riding, to be able to see those as well. 50 points to JJ, down to 27 points with Mark. Let's move on to the BCAT then. Joe Simpson winning it in 31.02. Chris Cole 31.04, just 2 seconds behind. We saw Pavel come over the line. Julia's sprint at the end to kind of out-sprint everyone. Didn't quite catch up with George, but just got ahead of Dougie, Matt and David. Great racing, 60 points for the winner there and 42 down for Andrew Nicholson. On to the BCAT, we saw that sprint to the line between Ben and Chris. If it had just been a metre more, I think Chris would have just got in front right at the last minute there, but the line came too early for Chris. Ben wins it, 30.06. Chris Sharp just a split second behind. Mark Way, Neil Colburn in fourth. Really, really close there between those two guys as well, just over a second. 72 points to Ben, all the way down to 60 for Chris. And then on to our Category A. The four riders we got Category A. John absolutely smashing it, 27.28 with a nice big lead over Synth Rider and Synth beating Finn to the line there as well after Finn tried that attack on the gravel climb from down by the volcano. And then Eric 30.50, 80 points to John, 77 for Eric. So yeah, it was so much fun to watch. I'm so pleased I got some of the footage. Thank you so much to you guys who sent it to me. It was brilliant to be able to watch back. As I said, I actually watched that back as I was recording the voiceover because I didn't want to spoil it. I did obviously put the clips in time order, but I didn't watch it as a result. I didn't look at what the results were. So yeah, absolutely brilliant to watch it back. Next up on the schedule, race number 2 on the 16th of October, 2 o'clock UK time. Another flat race, fairly quick, 2 laps of the Gotham Grind Reverse in New York. If you didn't join race number 1, it doesn't matter. It's the best 8 results of the 14 race series that count, so you can still come along and join. Best way to do that is to join the club on the Zwift Companion app, where obviously the race schedule and all of our other rides come up in there as well. And join the Discord channel and the Facebook group where all the information will be posted. And in the regular videos that I do, once the rides are set up, they'll be in the description below, where you can find out about all of our other rides as well. I want to say a massive thank you to all the channel members. Your support really does mean a lot. Going up the screen on one of the sides now. If it's something that you're interested in, information again is in the description below, or buy me a coffee, or hit the little join icon somewhere on the YouTube page itself. But that is the end of this video. Absolutely loved it. Just watching it. I can't wait to be involved with it. But if you have enjoyed it, do hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.